Taking the time to coach them consistently. It's not something that they went through training, they know it. It's training never stops. And you should know more of that to be able to teach them. And if you are a sales leader, or even if you're an executive, like I run revenue, but sales is where my heart started and where it will always live. If I don't know, if I can't show them how to do their job in real time, there's a problem. And they will never believe in me if I don't know how to do that.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Your Winning Edge, brought to you by me, Skip Balch, the sales handicapper. The Winning Edge is all about talking to CEOs and sales leaders. They own the number, they have to make the call, and they have to live with the outcome. Today, I have a very special guest with me. I have Danielle Stinson, who is the Chief Revenue Officer at FrontStream. FrontStream basically makes fundraising a whole lot easier for nonprofits. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce to you Danielle Stinson. Hi, Danielle. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Nonprofit is not really an area that is often represented in understanding the role of technology and sales leaders. You got a team that you got to lead, just like a for-profit organization. But basically, for nonprofits who are mission-driven, they're often resource constrained. How does FrontStream specifically help organizations bridge the gap, doing more with less without burning out their existing teams?
That's a big question, and that is a common issue that they have. We have a system or a software that helps them do all-in-one fundraising, galas, donations, campaigns. It's like having another employee, and it's automated. So it's just helping them do things when it doesn't have to have their full attention. But when they are doing it, they're more efficient with their time.
So you guys have been doing this for how long?
25 plus years.
25 years.
Mhm.
And you've been with FrontStream for how long?
I have been there for 3 years. This was my first experience in the nonprofit space. I come from the for-profit. Very different challenges, very different pain points to answer for, and a very different way to sell it.
Interesting. So what's been the most eye-opening thing that you've experienced so far?
That my biggest competitor was an Excel spreadsheet, which is very different from any other space I've ever been in. But that is very common with nonprofits. I can do it. It's all right here. Yes.
It's all right here. I can do it.
Yes.
Which is somewhat, to some extent, job security, right?
And that's what some of them are looking for. And then, but you layer in the high turnover of that position, it makes it very difficult for someone else to walk in. So that's interesting.
So talk about that for a minute, the high turnover in that position.
High turnover. Well, because most of the time they're underpaid. I mean, they're kind of like in the teacher realm, right? They don't get paid a ton for what they do. They aren't there for the money. They're there for their cause, right? For their reason of why they do it, their mission. Someone has been impacted themselves or a family member generally. And there's a ton of them that come up or they open every year. Not a lot survive because they don't know how to do it. They're there for the why, not the how, and that's where we kind of come in and help them.
So they're obviously not in it for the money. That's what you're saying.
You can't be
right?
in this side. I mean, in national brands, it's a little bit different of a conversation, but for 80% of the nonprofits, that is true.
So let's just jump right into AI. If I know how, I built my website and I've never coded in my life. I built my website in 3 hours on Lovable, right?
Yes.
Why can't organizations, especially smaller ones, just go ahead and build their own fundraising mechanism?
That's a great question. We get asked that quite a bit. You could do it. A couple of things. Building a website is one thing. And you kind of know what you're looking for. Usually they're templated or they know what to search for. Building software to help you fundraise is a different animal. And then come into play compliance. You're dealing with credit card processing. You're dealing with people's donations, account information. that makes it a little more difficult. And a human has to know what they're doing from a coding standpoint to proof AI. We're not quite there yet. It can do, I would say, 90% of the lift, but the testing QA part, that still needs human involvement.
Well, yeah, I would imagine it does, right? So whether it's human in the loop, human in the lead, or human in the way, there's still the need for human, right? Um, so then why you guys versus somebody? I mean, my gosh, I did some research. There's a ton of software, and especially SaaS software for the nonprofit industry. Why you? What makes you different? What's your winning edge?
We grow with you. We facilitate that nonprofit that opened 10 seconds ago to what do I do? Where do I go? I think we give more of a personalized touch as well. We've revamped our customer success side to really adapt and educate. That's what AI can't do. And a lot of our competitors
Well,
have
forget.
gone.
Well, forget. Wait. Forget AI. What you just said,
Just,
I could find on any of your competitors' websites.
oh, true story. True.
Okay, so what is it that makes what about what you bring, FrontStream brings to the relationship that maybe some of these that have been around for 5, 10, 15 years or whatever, what do you bring that they don't?
Well, that 25-year experience has come in handy. And I would say most of our customer success has worked. They came from the nonprofit space. They have a completely different view on how to help, the ideas, how to educate on fundraising. I think that's the biggest part. And yes, our competitors say that, but as they move into automated customer success and automated onboarding, we have held out and not done that. It's way more cost effective, but I think from a retention standpoint, it doesn't make any sense.
You've got a pretty
That's
high
the biggest
retention
part.
rate for your
Yes.
clients.
And we do help them grow. Like I said, if you opened 10 seconds ago, we can help you there. Mid-market is kind of really become our sweet spot where you've been in the nonprofit space for a year or two. You've gotten your feet under you. Now I'm going to help you not just do a gala, an event, a live auction, etc. I'm going to help you. How do I get reoccurring donors? That's the key for a nonprofit. How do I get those reoccurring donors to have that credit card on file that want to donate every single month? And then how do I communicate with them what we did with their money? That's where we're really, really good at helping them.
So a lot of personalized service, a lot of hand holding. Yes.
Yes.
How many salespeople do you have?
For the main part that we're talking about, the small business side, we have 12. And then we have enterprise people, but that's the probably the most pivotal piece is 12.
And so your 12 salespeople are the ones that are responsible for carrying the message out to the marketplace beyond, as well as marketing, right?
Correct.
How are they doing with that?
Much better. We revamped our process about a year and a half ago. We had to get excellent and myopic on the discovery. What are their pain points?
Music to my ears.
Yes, asking the right questions and not just having my list of questions and going to the next one, right? It's what are they saying? And then reading, reacting, and not just finding one pain point and stopping and going, I can solve that. I can fix it. Let me tell you how. Because then it's about us. It's really making it about them and how do they envision fundraising? How do they envision talking to their donors? And can we fit that? And if we can't, it was amazing to talk to you. And we always get to learn from nonprofits, but I'm not going to sell them something that's not going to help them grow. Like that's a big thing for us because you put a nonprofit in the wrong space, neither one of us are happy.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things that I teach and the training that I conduct with my clients is the difference between listening to learn and listening to respond. And what you just described was, let me tell you what I heard this. Let me tell you, that's listening to respond.
Yes.
Right. And there are ways to know whether you're listening to respond versus listening to learn. The first one is if you feel yourself wanting to interrupt, you're listening to respond.
Like you're just waiting for yours. Yes.
Yeah. Well, but not only that, what happens is when you listen to respond, whatever the trigger was, you now have a conversation going on in your own head about what it is that you want to say, which means you're not listening
You're not
to what they want to say or to what they're saying. So if you feel like you want to respond, if you can't remember what they just said 10 seconds ago, then you were listening to respond. Because again, you weren't willing you weren't going to try to interrupt, but you stopped listening because you started answering the question in your own head. So you've led sales teams before this,
yes,
right? And so now you're leading a sales team that's selling into nonprofits who automatically are going to tell you just by default, I don't have the money. I can't afford this, right? Yes. That's the default because, correct, we're poor, we're a nonprofit, yes, right? How do you train for that? And how do you bring that mentality of for-profit sales mentality into the nonprofit space?
We probably, and I've done this with all of my sales teams, but we have to rely on the value proposition 10 times more than mainstream SaaS. How do I show the value? How do I prevent you from having to hire a person to do this job? How do I show you that using my platform increases the average auction using FrontStream's auction platform increases 37% year over year auction because it's automated. They can do it on their phone.
They can manage everything from their phone.
They can see all of the items. They can bid in real time. They get text messages if they've been outbid. That again increases the revenue because they're aware that they're no longer the number one bidder. Everything can be done the tickets can be automated. So it's just basically showing the value of how I can help you run your event, raise more money, you can do the closeout of our product in about 10 minutes. Without a software to do that, it takes the average nonprofit about 3 weeks to fully close.
Close it out.
Items out. Some of them have to be shipped, etc. We also add a little bit of value. We have a website called biddingforgood.com. We have 1.3 average visitors to that website a month. There are people that are out there that want to do good or they're in the market to buy something. There's trips on there.
Wait a minute, you have only 1.3?
Only 1.3. I know.
Visitors per month.
To biddingforgood.com.
And so I'm sorry, what am I missing? That doesn't seem like a very big number.
Monthly unique visitors, that's not bad for an auction.
1.3 or 1.3 million or 1.3 thousand or just
1.3 million. Sorry.
I'm sorry, you were saying 1.3. You didn't say 1.3 million. Wow. Okay. Now you know why I have the question that I had. I'm going, she's pretty proud of this. I don't think so. Let me make sure I'm hearing this correctly.
Come to my website. Bless my heart. We have 1.3 million unique visitors that want to do good but also are in the market to buy something. I mean, I had a nonprofit post on there, a year-long lease to a Mercedes-Benz that they auctioned off. That's interesting to people. And they get a nonprofit receipt for purchasing something from a nonprofit. These nonprofits can publish their auction live on that website, and that benefits them as well. So it's, again, showing all of the value of everything that we can help them do, because I can help you talk to that many people without them having to be at your gala.
Well, so 1.3 million, that's pretty sizable number. Yeah, but just a little bit, just a little bit of difference. Yeah. So you've got a sales team. Everybody that I've talked to in the last 6 months is they're all in varying stages of applying AI. So we'll get to the role of AI in your product in a moment. But what role does AI play right now in making your sales team more effective? And let me back up. Let me ask one more question before that. What percentage of your leads are inbound?
Right now, you asked the question for right now. Right now, I would say 15%, because we did just redo our website. We just redid our Salesforce instance. So we're redoing our SEO. We rebranded.
So most of your leads right now then are outbound?
Outbound. So
they're salespeople making phone calls, doing whatever, and so on and so forth. Okay.
Yes.
So obviously, without the inbound, there's a big difference between somebody raising their hand and saying, "Hey, I want to talk," and then somebody that you're basically saying on an inbound lead, the very first question can always be just, what makes this conversation important to you today? And in that regard, I get two answers. One is, what's the need? And number two, what's the urgency? Great. When I'm outbound and I've maybe got their attention, I have to really just change one word. And that one word would be would. What would make this important to you today? So they're generating their own leads, and then they're also doing their own discovery calls. And then are they also the quarterback through the sales process? Because there's no such thing as a lone wolf anymore. Everybody's bringing somebody in from the team and helping to close this deal and so on and so forth. then what percentage of the deals that actually get into the pipeline actually move into the forecast?
Moving into the forecast, I have that team. I have a head of sales that stands between me and that particular team. He's spectacular. He's worked with me at 3 different places. I don't know why he keeps holding his hand up to keep doing that. Um, we've gone through such thorough training that we've really taught the value prop, the listening conversation. Um, so I would say 45% of what they do, which is insane, comes into the pipeline.
Comes
Uh,
into the forecast pipeline.
to the forecast.
There's opportunity pipeline, and then you have
correct.
a certain amount drop off that actually go, because forecast is basically you're now prepared to put a dollar amount and a time on that. Okay.
Yep.
So and forecast is what actually gets reported up.
Yes.
Pipeline gets reported down and gets reported sideways, right? Forecast gets reported up because the company's got to be able to start making financial decisions based upon how much they trust or don't trust the forecast. Okay.
You know who to do what percentage on.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, yeah. And how to inspect that effectively and so forth.
Yes.
What, when you lose, how many times is it to inertia or just status quo versus to a competitor?
We're hyper focused on that right now. It's an interesting timing of your question. I would say 25% we lose to inertia or indecision.
Okay.
And
how does that rank relative to not commercial? What do you think? Have you looked at that? And
no,
probably about the same, maybe different. Okay, great.
I would say it's close. I want to become myopic on those numbers. I think everyone should be with this market. But yeah, indecision is a big one. Competitors, there's a lot in our space. It just depends. But most of them sit either on we help with the event and auction side, or we're donor management. Having both in one platform is rare.
Oh, okay. So another distinction or difference behind the distinction is that you carry. There are 2 or 3 functions that have to be performed when you're raising money, especially through auctions and so forth. And most organizations do one or the other software. You handle both. What does that mean to the client? What's the impact, the value of the client?
The big part of that is when you're running an event or a gala, or even a golf tournament, a peer-to-peer event, and you're loading those donors, and especially for the new ones, putting them in the system, you don't have to then manually go enter them into your donor management system. Most of them have a CRM base or some database, or again, that Excel spreadsheet that makes my right eye twitch, but a lot of them love it. You don't have to do that. It talks to each other back and forth. Their actions then translate to that donor management. And then I know how to interact with them. I know how to communicate with them. I'm kind of getting statistical information from what they did to the event on how do I then interpret them as a donor.
Are you going up market, or are you going down market, or are you pretty flat relative to who you're selling to?
We have gone up market in the last year and a half, and I think this is our sweet spot. Most people, when I first came here, it was a lot of PTAs, school infused, which is not a bad place to be, but it is down market, and it's usually one event, and I don't have a runway to go to. You're not really growing.
You're right. It's the one-off annual fundraising event, and then you're done. It's that which makes amortizing the value of the software a little bit more difficult. Okay.
Yep. And so we've really gone to that more established nonprofit that generally has an executive director. There's a board involved. They've kind of found their way to that 2-year-ish mark, and now they're ready to grow. And then that's okay. How many events are we going to have? It's generally 1 or 2 galas or auctions a year, one in the fall, one in the spring is what they tend to do. They'll do a golf tournament or some peer-to-peer jogathon, something-a-thon, where they have teams, etc. And then they want to do, how do I build a donation page? How do I build a cause campaign? And that's what we step them through. So that's
and what's really interesting is that you step them through. You have the technology to support it, but it sounds to me like this is where the 25 years comes in. You've got enough data to know what's worked, what hasn't worked, and so forth. So when you're selling up market, obviously you're still selling, down market, sideways, whatever. But when you're selling up market, is the type of salesperson you need more akin to an enterprise software salesperson than a transactional software salesperson, or does it really matter?
I would say yes, but we've kind of cultivated them to be that. And because with nonprofits, you do have to think like an enterprise salesperson. You have to be more strategic. You have to be high arching, not just where are they today? Where can I take them? What are they going to need in the next 3 years that they haven't thought of yet? So you do have to be more enterprise centric in your thinking.
And so, yeah, so relationships make a big difference. What's the sales cycle? How long from the moment that you initiate a conversation to actually selling somebody?
I would say about 3 weeks. It's really
That's
not
all?
that long. That 3 weeks, 20 days is average for about 56% of our sales. The other side, I would say it takes a full 30-day cycle because you have to hit that board meeting, which is almost always once a month. But that's the average is right at that 21-day mark. Because generally what brings them in, and let me tell you why, because that doesn't make full rational sense unless you know this part. What triggers them to talk to us is generally an upcoming event in the next 90-ish days. And so they know they have to make a decision if they're going to use a software, probably
Okay.
the next
So
30
there's
days.
an urgent event.
There is. So
And
usually
and
there's some
is
pivotal piece.
is 90 if I've got something coming up in 90 days, is making so now I'm going to make a decision and I'm only going to have the software for 60 days. Is that really a long enough lead time?
I've activated a software and ran an auction within 24 hours. I don't recommend doing that. But
Okay.
usually by the time they're talking to us, they already had the date picked. They know the venue that they're using because we don't help with those pieces.
Right.
They've
Right.
usually curated the items that are going to be auctioned. They generally know who's going to attend. So they've already done that base work, which usually is 3 months to 6 months before they're talking
Okay.
to us.
Okay.
So it's
So, all right.
basically just getting that into our system.
So they've done the pre-construction of the event, and now what they need is something to more effectively manage it.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. So what's the tenure, average tenure of your sales force?
Right now, about a year and a half.
Okay. Where does that rank in with regard to other
It's
SaaS?
actually higher right now in the SaaS space. The SaaS space is going through some interesting. First of all, everyone held their breath because of AI and freaked out
Mhm.
that SaaS is going away. We're dead.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but and a lot. I mean, in the past, especially for small business, we'll keep that as the point of reference. They tend to be younger, entry level. That's not who is doing well in the SaaS space market because the resilience factor, I think, has to come into play, and they
Mhm.
don't have it. Um, so it's a little bit longer. Right now in the SaaS space, I think the average tenure for small business rep is 8 months.
Wow.
It
Okay.
moves fast, and they're not generally prepared to move that fast. And you have to learn fast and read and react, and that's a lot of things to ask for someone who's entry level for the most part. We try not. I don't like going to entry level, but most in that space are.
When was the last time you hired a new salesperson?
I am always in the loop. I don't do it directly now. The head of sales does.
Right.
But I hired someone about 3 months ago.
How are they doing?
Good. I mean, within about 30 days. And our interview process, I have intentionally made it difficult, like extremely difficult. And sometimes that makes my head of sales not happy. But if you can make it through that, you can do this. And so it's not easy. I look for very particular things. I ask off the wall questions that you cannot recite from muscle memory. Like I force you to actually think through it because if you get someone out of their comfort zone, you see who they are, you're never going to be
Mhm.
able to interview everything out of them
Mhm.
in that timeline. But if I can make you uncomfortable, I see who you are and how you react in that stress, right? So that's the goal.
Well, how long does it take a new person to really onboard and be effective?
45 days. You need to
Okay.
learn the product.
Right.
Um, and you need to learn what questions to ask. You need to understand nonprofits like, so we kind of force them through. If you're a nonprofit, like they learn how to build their own event. They learn really the pain points that those customers are going to experience, because if they don't know that, you can't speak to it.
Exactly. If you can't walk in their shoes, and it's like anything else. So that's interesting. So what do you measure in the first 45 days? How do you know? You said you can know in the first 30 days. What are you measuring?
Coachability is probably my number one. How do you react to being coached? Because every call is recorded and you're not going to be perfect. And I tell them, I'm going to make you comfortable being uncomfortable. That's how you grow. You didn't learn to ride a bike by getting on it and knowing how to do it. You fell off and that sucked and you didn't want to do it again. That's kind of how we approach what they're doing. They role play a lot with myself, with head of sales, with their counterparts. It's a lot of questions. It's a lot of forced reactions, right? We have weekly sales meetings. Tell me what you did last week. Can you deliver that information? There's very strategic things that I'm looking for. Your communication skill. Did you take that coachability that I gave you last week, and in next week's calls, I hear you?
So you mentioned that you listen to call. What do you guys use for call recordings?
We use SalesLoft for call recordings,
Okay.
plugged into Zoom. Yeah.
Okay. And then so SalesLoft is also your CRM?
Salesforce is our CRM.
Okay. So you have SalesLoft and you have Salesforce. Okay. And so at what point do they start actually talking to their ICP, their target list?
They start making cold calls on very low touch leads at 30 days. I want them to fail forward on just getting the marbles out of their mouth, learning what to say, because I don't care how much you train. There's no amount of preparation that prepares you for that first call when you go and everything leaves your mind.
Yeah, they need to take the first hit in the first game and go, okay, I guess I'm in the
Every
pros
time.
now.
Yes.
That's fine. And so and so let's talk about then the role of AI. You use SalesLoft, you have Salesforce. What role does AI play right now in making your sales team more effective and efficient?
Analyzing calls through AI is extremely helpful. They all have a Claude license to help them with that, but we do the same. Inputting the conversation and having it search for, I mean, it sounds terrible that you're leading with the negative, but what did I not ask? Was there anything inferred that I didn't catch? It's always going to be yes. No one's holistically perfect at that. As much as I would love to believe that I am, it's not true. And going through that process, that helps coach along with us coming over the top to help them what to say, what not to say. Putting together presentations faster, taking that call and interpreting what should I follow up on? What should my follow up? And then you have to proof it. I hate it. Don't send things without proofing your AI page that you want to irritate me. That's the thing to do.
So you do all of that as with Claude as an extension,
Yes.
so forth. Okay, because I could literally not do what I do without my AI sales assistant. I use Sybil.ai.
Yes.
It does all of those things. I never have to go to Claude. It does all of those things incorporated into, and I ask, to your point, the first thing I do once I send an email, and you've been the recipient of one of those emails that it generated, the first thing I do is I go back in and say, what did I do right? What did I do wrong in the call today? And it's been good. It will actually point out certain things and that this went a little bit long. I've actually taught it to help me understand if I'm listening to respond or listening to learn. And the other day, I was on a call and it said, you got a little bit close to listening to respond. There were a couple of times that you acted like you wanted to interrupt, but you didn't. And I went, darn. I mean, it's if you're not willing to take that, then there's really no point in having the call recorder do it. But I totally agree that it's been a game changer. It is a game changer.
It's
In
massive.
the role of
And
sales.
you don't have to go back and listen or remember your notes. Because if I'm sitting here writing everything down, that's another thing. I'm not listening.
Yeah, I suck at note taking.
Yes.
Because number one, I suck regardless. Even if I'm fully listening to take notes, I suck at it. But what I found is that when I can just simply sit back and listen and have a conversation, and the AI sales assistant is really good enough to be able to pick up the nuances and so on and so forth, it's a game changer.
Yes.
Absolutely, it's a game changer. So So you've got 45 days that you are really looking at, kind of taking them out off the training wheels, and then you expect them to go out. You're managing a team of nonprofit salespeople, right? What do you do when somebody's not hitting the number or not hitting the metrics that you put in front of them? How do you deal with that any differently than a for-profit company?
Non, you can't. I mean, that's the space they have to be in, and it's every sales team I've ever managed for the last 20 something years. Has said they always see me coming. And I used to, when I was young, not take it as an insult, be like, but I think I take it now as a compliment. I very much tell you the process, even in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the process.
Yep.
You have a 45-day ramp, and then we go 60, 90, 120 to eval. Like, you know the rules of the game before it's done.
Expectations.
Yes, you have
Expectations.
to. Like, nothing can be gray. And then we'll evaluate. You will evaluate yourself. I will evaluate you. The head of sales will evaluate you. And then we have a conversation. Is this what you want to do? Because you have to want to do this. This is a lot of work. It's a lot of outbound work. It's a lot of listening to nonprofits and their why. And that's taxing on you too. I mean, they have some big reasons why. And you become a part of that conversation. And then if they're not doing it, we meet, we go over that. I tell you exactly what's going to happen. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the plan. If you don't follow the plan, then I'm going to put you on a performance plan. Then we're going to meet every week. I listen to your calls during that week. I'm very hands-on, even for the size of the company that we are, because if I don't have a pulse on that, I trust my head of sales 1,000%, but I still need to know what's happening.
Yeah, you realize that's a dichotomy, right? I trust my head of sales 1,000%, but I still have my finger in everything. That's a whole different podcast that we can talk about a later date.
It's a whole different day. That's a Tuesday for me. But
so help me. So you're using SalesLoft, you're using Salesforce, you're recording calls, it's doing analysis through Claude, and so forth. You're doing all of that. Is there anything that the product is doing with AI that is going to differentiate you guys? Because, AI has basically turned all technology into NASCAR, right? Everybody's got the same capabilities at their hand. Everybody can use it, coders and non-coders. So in NASCAR, what happens is the difference is the team and the driver, right? So what do you do? What do you do when your moat is with your moat when everybody's got a boat? So what is it that you guys are doing that makes the role of AI going to make it really exciting within the software?
I mean, we're a slim percentage of difference. I think the one thing that makes us different is that we have been in this space for 25 years. I have 25 years. I have full access to this data of them using a CRM, of them using auctions. I have 25 years of knowing what worked and what didn't work, even down as granular as nonprofits sending out emails to their donors. Which ones worked? Which ones got opened? What were their open rates? What was the response rate? And when was the best timing to do that? We're having AI. We're not done with it yet, but we're embedding it into our system to give those suggestions. Hey, the what we have found over this amount of nonprofits, day 36 after an auction is the best day to reach out. Here's the best message.
And more specifically, if you're going after pet owners and you're doing this and you're doing that, you've got so much data after 20 that you can get really specific. Old friend of mine once told me nothing is dynamic that isn't specific, right?
Correct.
And so you're able to get really specific, which again allows you as a differentiator to say, I don't ask if the other company that you're talking to, ask if they have 25 years of data that are all about success.
We saw that the gap is education, right? Talking about that turnover again, talking about walking into that new job, not knowing. I can give you the templates. I can give you the examples. Now there's some nuance depending, but I can get super granular on that data to help you move forward faster. And that's what nonprofits need. They just need to be propelled. Because if not, with 2, 3, 4 people, that's a hard thing to learn, and the timeline is long. So we want to accelerate that faster.
When you win deals, why do you win?
The education piece, our customer success side, the formal onboarding, the 2 sessions of training, and if you need additional, here's what we help. The support people being accessible. And they all
Well,
get
that's wait a minute. That's all great after the sale has been made.
true story.
But before the sale is when you're selling still, what is
Yeah.
it that you do that says somebody says, all right, I'm going to go with Frontline?
The biggest reason why people close is it's an all-in-one platform. It's all in one place.
Okay.
You don't have to API into 8 other things. And that generally is what is happening across. And everyone wants to say, well, we have APIs where you can plug and play into everything. Well, why not just offer everything if that's what you're going to do?
That's honestly, I don't get paid for this, but that's what Sybil does. Sybil basically has
Yeah.
everything that you need
I
within
looked at it
Sybil.
yesterday. You've definitely tweaked my interest.
Yeah, it's just again, and because they're AI first and all this good stuff. So you're in a tough market. You're in a tough economic market. You're in a tough software competitive market. You're in a tough job market. What's your biggest challenge with getting the most out of your sales team?
Well, and we're 100% remote, so that doesn't help.
Yeah, there you go. So there's no kinetic energy. There's no in-person camaraderie. You got to make up your own kinetic energy. So wow,
culture becomes 10 times more important in that time frame. And so that's not an easy thing to do. The benefit that I have is I worked for a company that went remote 2 years before the rest of the world did with COVID, which was a terrible experience at the time, but I am extremely grateful for it now. But hearing them that's another reason, not just because I want to overarch on my head of sales, I want them to feel heard from the top down. So myself, our CEO, we join their sales meeting every week. I want to hear what they have to say. What were the issues? Where did we win? Going and getting them competitive info. Like, we are very hands-on with that sales team because they do have to be motivated. When you're talking 75% of your job is outbound, you're getting rejected 99% of your day. I have to keep them up. We have a culture club that comes up with things to help do that. We have a book club. What do you want to focus on? We do no meetings Tuesdays for half the days because I know you need 4 hours in one day of at least 1 week to plan it all out. There's certain things that we try and mentally help them with. Now, if I catch you not doing what you're supposed to be doing in that time, we have an uncomfortable conversation. But I want to set you up for success. And I think they very much know that. We have a company-wide meeting that everyone has to be on. We do company-wide shout outs. Like, they have access to me at all times if they need it. And I will get on the call and help them.
Sorry, look at that. I just listened to respond. But you prompted something. Do you guys ever get together once a year, annual sales meeting?
We have regional meetings that the executive leadership team will go to, and we try and hit everyone at least once a year to whatever that region is, because we have conferences and things that we have to go to anyway. So we try and bring at least within a certain mile range of them to come in. We also will go, we have a product that if you want us to come help you run the software at your in-person event, we will come do that. And so myself and our CEO will visit as many of those as we possibly can because you want to see your software work live. That's you want to learn the problems and the successes. You will learn it very quickly under that.
Well, that becomes a sales item as well,
or
a sales thing, because you know what, we're not gonna set you up and then leave you. Not only that, there's a good chance you might see our CEO at one of your events.
Yes, that's the thing. And that's helpful. They need to see that. And we'll bring as many of our salespeople to that as well because they need to physically see our product in action as well. So we try and do a lot of those things to help, but it's a lot.
This has been a very interesting conversation. It sounds like there's an awful lot that's the same. There's an awful lot maybe that's different, especially when you look at the people that you're hiring to sell. What would be your guidance to anybody else leading a nonprofit sales team? What would be your guidance as to, if you do this early, it'll pay off in the long run?
Taking the time to coach them consistently. It's not something that they went through training, they know it. it's training never stops. And you should know more of that to be able to teach them. And if you are a sales leader, or even if you're an executive, like I run revenue, but sales is where my heart started and where it will always live. If I don't know, if I can't show them how to do their job in real time, there's a problem. And they will never believe in me if I don't know how to do that. That makes me crazy. So and sometimes it makes salespeople crazy because every once in a while I'm like, do you have a call coming up that is a little difficult? I would love to help. And they think I'm evaluating them. I'm not. Sometimes I just need that fix to close something or to see if I can still do it, and to show them your executives can do this too. So I think that's the advice. Train constant and often, and test yourself if what you're training is actually working.
It's interesting. When I was a salesperson, I hated it when my sales manager said, "Hey, I'm going to go on these calls with you," unless we could jointly determine the unique value that they're bringing to the meeting. If they're not bringing anything unique to the meeting, then one of us is redundant. And so, and again, if I'm meeting with the SVP, this is my early days, or EVP or something like that, and I could do a top to top and bring my VP of sales, yeah, that would make sense. But if I'm meeting with a director or a senior person and I'm having a sales meeting, and the one question is, why are you bringing a heavyweight into this meeting?
Exactly.
But the other question is, what are you going to say that's different than me? Or what am I not saying, maybe how I'm not saying it, that you want to show me? In other words, context is everything. And so
Yeah.
just to show up because you're going to go ahead and
Oh, yeah.
monitor it is not the
Well,
way to
that
go.
makes it about me and not about them.
There you go.
And that can't be it either. But I will ask all of the questions. Like, where are we in the process? What questions have we asked? What pain points? And if we don't have that, we cancel the meeting because you're not benefiting them. You're not benefiting you. Um, but I want to know all of those things. And can I bring value? I try and be very strategic on the calls that I join, because if I'm just sitting there, I'm just making that salesperson nervous for no reason. That doesn't make sense. But
Well, and
occasionally,
you're bringing
you can say,
questions into the mind of the prospect too. If you're not going to be involved, then why are you here? Which is, now they're not listening to learn; they're listening to respond. So, Danielle, thank you. This has been very, very enjoyable, very informative. I hope for our listeners this has been and viewers that this has been motivational. That this is a tough space to be able to sell into, and yet you can't have salespeople that last. You can't have salespeople that enjoy it. You can effectively lead a remote team and do good at the same time.
yes, that's our tagline. Make good happen.
Make what?
Make good happen.
That's a good tagline. That's
Yeah.
excellent.
So it's helpful for our nonprofits. But I appreciate you having me. Thank you. This was fun.
Been my pleasure. Thanks, Danielle. Bye bye.